Hey everyone, this video is just going to be an explanation of the lab that you need to do over the weekend. I'll give you some tips on organizing your data and graphing your data. So use this for reference if you need it. Okay, so right now I'm sharing my screen and this is the lab. The first thing you need to do is organize your data. So the big list in the Google Sheets that was sent to you, you need to organize it by category. So we're going to be grouping heart rate into these categories. So less than 61, and then we're going to go up by tens all the way to above 160 for your heart rate. And then you're just going to be recording the number of students who had that range. So both for resting and exercise. So what I did beforehand is I highlighted this data table and I copied it. And then I hopped over to the list of our full class data. I need to share this again. And then I just pasted it in here so that I could see it better instead of having to flip back and forth. You could also just do this with a pencil and paper. That would be fine too. So what's nice about this data that Dr. Hazelton created for us is that it's all in order. So there's not going to be a lot of jumping around. It's going to be pretty simple. So the first range is less than 61. So she went over to the number of students right here for the resting heart rate and beats per minute, and she just added them up. So 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 4, 6, plus 1 is 7, plus 9 is 16, and that is how she got the 16 right here. For after exercising heart rate, no one had a range less than 61, so just 0. And then you'll just do the same thing for 61 through 70. So I would go 8 plus 1 plus 3 plus 1, add that up, put that here. And then it only looks like there's one kid who was at a 68 after exercising heart rate here. Okay, so the next thing you're going to have to do is make a graph. So I'm going to flip back to our lab. Okay, and this is the explanation of the graph. You're going to create a bar graph from the data. You need to place heart rate on the x-axis and number of students on the y-axis. And you're going to use the categories provided. So your first category on the x-axis should be less than 61, then 61 to 70, 71 to 80, etc. You're not graphing individual data points. You're graphing the number of students within that range. So make sure that your x-axis and y-axis are labeled appropriately and give the graph an appropriate title. You can graph both resting and exercise heart rates on the same graph. So you'll have a double bar graph and that will look good. But make sure if you do that, you have a key that says which bar is the resting heart rate and which bar is the exercising heart rate. And then you're going to copy and paste into this section here. So I'm just going to show you, if you're not familiar with how to make graphs using Google Sheet, how to do that. So, okay, so I'm back in my sheets and I have made sample data. So I made a bunch of ranges, 1 through 5, 6 through 10, all the way to 30, and then I have a fake set of data 1 and a fake set of data 2. Okay, so to make your graph, it's very simple. You're just going to highlight the headings and highlight your data. And then you're going to go to Insert, Chart. And then it pops right up for you. So from here, I would do some customizing. So I would customize my chart and axes titles for sure. So if I go to chart title here, I can just type in whatever I want to include. So you want to make sure that your chart title describes the graph. So something about your ranges and the number of students would be good. So that's how you do that one. See, I'll just show you. I'm changing the title here, and that should pop up. Okay. And then you want to look at your axes. So my x-axis is already labeled with my ranges. You should have a description of what those ranges are. So I just need to fix my vertical axis. So I change it to the vertical axis there. So did you see that? Click on that button and you can pick chart title. You're not going to need a subtitle. And then I would just say fake data. See? And then it pops up. Okay. So those are a couple things you want to check for. So you want to check to make sure your graph includes a title, a y-axis label, and an x-axis label. And then you also want to make sure that your data is, your bars have a key. So that popped up automatically for me. So you could probably go into Legend and play around with that and change it if you want, but it should be right from your headings, so I don't think you'll end up needing to change it really. Okay, so then from there, you're just going to click on these 3 buttons, copy the chart, hop back to your lab, and then you're going to paste the chart. So if you hit paste, don't link it to your spreadsheet, just paste unlinked, and then you'll get a nice graph in there. Okay, so from there, all you're going to do is answer the questions. So number 1 says, if the range is defined as the difference between the lowest and highest value, which set of data had the largest range? Did the resting group have the largest range, or did the exercise group have the largest range? For number 2 and source of error, it could be environmental, equipment, failure, procedural, or just random human error. You need to explain what might have caused some inconsistencies. You cannot just write it was human error. You would need to say what that human error was. So for example, one source of error could be if you guys made up your data, which you shouldn't, but that's an example of an error. So think about what could lead to differences in your data. And then I think the rest of the questions are pretty straightforward. Yep, and then you're just going to turn that in. All right, so hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, you can email me or Dr. Hazelton, and talk to you soon.